We're going to hear one more before we have a break, which is Mounir. And Mounir's got some really interesting tools that can help decision makers in the built environment and developers sort of say, okay, well, let's look at this gravel garden thing, right? That sort of thing. And we talked on the phone, so I was trying to get my head wrapped around it. And so we're going to hear from what these kinds of tools and frameworks, not just like software kinds of tools, but also frameworks to help say yes. Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Okay? Yeah? All right, good. So, I'm going to try to keep this brief, about 10 minutes or so. If I go over 10 minutes, just let me know. Okay, Clint can do this. All right, thanks, Clint. Okay, so I'm going to build a little bit on what the previous speakers generously shared with us today. In some cases, I'll actually build a little bit more than I should. I actually stole a slide, a figure from Duke earlier. Let's see. Steal away. Okay, yes, thank you. And so the message of my presentation is actually quite clear. I'm going to start with it. This way there's no surprises, you know. Integration is key. That's what I want to talk about for the next 10 minutes or so. Okay? My background is I'm a mechanical engineer that kind of got reformed into a civil engineer and then saw the light and went to construction and, you know, along the way did some business and economic stuff. So kind of a salad of things, which led me to work in an area that I found really interesting, and that is the intersection of design and construction, right? Somebody's got to think about it, somebody's actually going to build it. And oftentimes our projects leak at that intersection. And so that's why I'm starting with this specific title about integration. This is a slide I stole from you, thank you. Credits and everything. In fact, I took that from the video, screenshot straight from the video. It is a fantastic video, and it did not shake when I saw it. So, Dana yesterday started with aspirational versus achievable. That was like maybe the very first sentence of what you opened with yesterday. And what I'm talking about today is very much on the achievable side. I'm going to show you that there are things that have been done for a while. They're still not the norm, but Bonnie and others in a lot of cities are actually doing these. And you don't know what I'm going to talk about yet, but we'll get there.
I'm scared.
It's good, it's only good. And so Duke gave us this fantastic, you know, beautiful, grandiose idea. 40 miles, right? And there's a lot of ways to actually do that. It's a very large, complex, long-term project. And on most of our projects, I'm going to say roughly 90% of the projects in the US today, what do we do? You know, the city is going to start planning. They may hire some consultants to help them out. They may do some inside design or actually hire somebody, you know, that's a graduate of this fantastic school right here, School of Design, to actually do that. And then when the design is 100% complete, of course, they're going to work with a bunch of consultants and get other designers on board and engineers, etc. Then the design is fully complete, okay? 40-mile stretch. The design is fully complete, and then we're going to put it out for bid. This little dot is the bid. And whoever, the contracting company, that can actually provide this design to the very plans and specs at the cheapest price, that's who's going to take it, right? Common practice. That's exactly how you would choose a heart surgeon, right? If you had something, lowest price. Right? Surgery is the exact same. They both went to the same school, so I'm going to go with the, that's not how you do things, right? But unfortunately, for millions and millions and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, this is still the way that a lot of people still do things. It's not a bad way. Sometimes it's a good way if these are repetitive projects we've learned from experiences. But in a project this scale, this complex, where there's that much innovation at stake, you probably don't want to do that. And then we turn it over to Bonnie, and she's going to have to deal with it for operations and maintenance over 30, 40 years, right? This is, most of the time, what happens. This is a system that we call design, bid, build, right? You can imagine what that is, right? We're designing, and then we bid, and then we build it. It's very linear, not a whole lot of opportunities for interaction between these different stakeholders. Now, for the last 2 days, I apologize, I have been in and out, but I've attended about half of the sessions. And so we've been talking about biomimicry and these generous cities. These are fantastic concepts. At some point, we're going to design them and build them. right? And some of it's actually being designed right now by Darren and his students. And at some point, we're going to design and build. Where would you introduce these concepts along that specific flow? Where would you introduce generosity? Where would you introduce biomimicry? I want to take you back to this one. I'll take any answers, please.
Planning.
Say again?
Planning.
Yeah, so probably you want to start somewhere in planning and design. You obviously can't do it here, that's too late, and you don't probably want to do it here because you'd have missed a lot of opportunities. So you're probably going to start somewhere in planning and design. So we're going to plan and design, and this is a fantastic new concept. The design is fully complete. We're going to put it out for bid. The contractor is going to come in and look at this and say, bio what? Generous who? Not on my watch. So whenever there's risk like that, whenever they see something that they haven't done before, and trust me, they probably haven't done something of this complexity before, most of them, right? What are they going to do? What do you do when you're not sure how much it's going to cost, right? Put some contingency on it, right? Whatever that may be, 5, 10, 50, however much percent of risk that you value, you're going to add that price tag on it. And then, of course, the general contractor, I happen to work in the School of Construction as well as the Sustainable Engineering School. The general contractor is not going to perform all the work themselves. They can't. They may perform 30, 40% of the work, and then the rest, the majority of the work is actually going to be bid out to subcontractors. What do subcontractors think they're going to say? Right? Everybody's giving me thumbs up now. And so what happens is you're actually going to be adding to the price because of risks, sometimes correct, sometimes incorrect, sometimes they can be mitigated, sometimes they won't even materialize. But we're going to pay for it because we are the city. We pay money to the city, right? So it ends up being on the public. It ends up being on us. And so however you introduce this, wherever we introduce our concepts on your traditional framework, we call it a delivery system, a project delivery system. It's not ideal, okay? Let's put it that way. Is there a better way? Yes, because otherwise my presentation would be done. So, there is a better way. There's actually a bunch of better ways. And so there's a few. I'm going to list a couple of them. One of them is called, what I mentioned earlier was design, bid, build, right? This one is called construction manager at risk. Some of you may be familiar with it because we've worked with it. And what that does is it actually brings the design and construction, instead of them being designed and then bid, what it does is it'll bring that construction piece and overlap it a little bit with design so that these people can actually talk to these people, and there's a little bit of regeneration of these ideas. The contractors will tell them, well, I think there's risk there, and then the designer will explain that it isn't that different from what you've done. We're just looking at it from a different perspective, or we're adding a specific perspective. When you've done 2 projects, now we're kind of building them into one. You can have these. And then the contractor will say, well, if you actually design it this way, it's really going to be more expensive, and Bonnie only wants to pay X amount of dollars, so the designer will go back and rework a little bit and make sure that these 2 people are on board before we move forward with the project. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the complexities of that. That's what I do on my day-to-day job. But what I'm trying to do is to say there are systems that work, and we're using them right now. Arizona actually in year 2000 passed the legislation to be able to do anything but design, bid, build if we want to. We added these to our toolbox. I wasn't here at the time, but my colleagues were actually part of the people that wrote the legislation. It happened in our program where contractors, engineers, architects, cities, everybody came to the table because ASU is kind of neutral, right? And they all came to the table and wrote that legislation together. It got a lot of support. It passed. We can do this. There's another one. It's called design build. Notice there's no design bid build, right? And so design build is a company that can actually do both. So you pick one firm and they're responsible for the whole project. They can overlap as much as they want because they're one firm. There's an even more extreme one, and that is IPD, Integrated Project Delivery, where it's not just one company. You actually bring all of the key stakeholders and they sign one contract, right? That's kind of cool, and that's being done. None of this is aspirational. This is all achievable, okay? And that's what I'm talking about a little bit today. Janine tasked us with one very specific question: what if everybody did that? That happens to be what I do for a living. I actually measure the performance. My group measures the performance of these different projects for different complexities and sizes and types. And we look at highways, we look at water projects, and we're writing the guidebooks right now for the federal government for these types of delivery methods. How do DOTs, our Department of Transportation, what can they use in terms of tools to use that, and how do these projects become successful? So we're doing this. We actually worked with the city of Phoenix and collected some of their data on pipelines, water pipelines, that used one of these alternative delivery methods, CMAR. And it was about 7 to 10% better on cost and on schedule consistently. Okay, we looked at design build, that second one. And on design build, we did a meta-analysis of 4,000 to 5,000 projects last year over 20 years of research that we actually pulled into, one graph. I'll get to that, so I'm gonna go back up. Okay, so we did that, and it was actually consistently better on cost and a third of savings on time, so 35% faster on time over 4,000 to 5,000 projects. And these are averages. Of course, you're gonna have outliers either way, right? But on average, a third on time is kind of a big deal. Now, the last one, the IPD, Integrated Project Delivery, this is Engineering News Record. Anybody reads that? A couple of us, good. Yeah. And so, this one, September 19th, 2012, this is when this came out. It marked me so much that I actually remember, I'm kidding. This is my birthday, that's why I remember. Yeah. Now we're on live stream, the whole world can hack into my account. Great. I shouldn't have said that. And so they came out with this, and they were actually looking at a case study of a hospital project in the Bay Area, where 11 parties signed the same contract. Kind of unusual, pretty cool, spearheaded by Sutter Health, very transformative organization there. They did that. That gave us an idea of, hey, we've been actually measuring the impact of the other delivery systems. Let's try to look at this one. And we did that, and 2 years later, they had another article that had this in it. Okay? And what this is, I kind of hit what's on the bottom. This is the design bid build, CMAR, design build IPD. But it doesn't matter what that is. What matters is we're increasing the integration in the delivery method. The more our stakeholders are integrated, the project performance is higher and higher and higher, that was our hypothesis, and we were able to actually prove that. And that was kind of cool. And you may ask me about what is project performance? Is it cost? Is it schedule? Is it quality? Is it RFIs? Is it changes? Yes, 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 yes. Okay? We didn't map it. I didn't show it for every single one of these. What we did is, you're familiar probably with the, Duke and I had a discussion about this 2 years ago. Who watches football? Come on. Don't be shy. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so project quarterback rating, right? That's how you actually map Aaron Rodgers versus anybody else. I don't care, right? And so, how do you know that Aaron Rodgers is really that good? Maybe not last year with a broken collar, but you got the point. And so they look at interceptions, they look at touchdowns, they look at yards, they look at completions, and they take all these numbers and make them into one. It's called quarterback rating. We did the same thing. We called it the project quarterback rating. We took cost and schedule and quality, and now we can probably add all the metrics that you're talking about and do something like that brings that, how generous is this city? Generosity index or something like that. And I think we can borrow some of that. I'm happy to contribute to it. And so that's another slide that I stole from you. My last slide is integration is key. Nature is very good at it. Our projects, when they're good at it, they do a lot better. And so that's really my message for today. Thank you very much.